and she said, do not come back until you have a plan to break the company even. And I'm like, haha, very funny. This is hilarious. And my wife said, no, I'm not kidding. Do not come back. She went on Amazon and ordered a mattress to the office for me. Like, I knew I was going to sleep in the office for multiple days in a row because my plan was try to figure out what had gone wrong. Because basically what happens is all companies fail in similar ways. No companies succeed in this. All success is unique, but all failures rhyme. Good people leave. People lose control of innovation. G&A goes up. And over time, you end up picking fights with your customers and partners. So that had happened at Opendoor. I asked for a full list of all employees, every contract, every payment the company had made for the last 12 months, and then like all the accounts. Like, I'm just, okay, cool. Give me like the state. And one of the things I realized is that it is actually surprising how lack of active management allows companies to atrophy.
What do you mean by that?
If you're trying to avoid looking bad, you do a certain number of certain things, right? So Opendoor for a very long time was doing everything it could in order to not be noticed, in order to not stand out, which meant the company was basically had become a company run by professional consultants. Let me give you two specific examples. So I got, we agreed that I was going to join the company, and then the chair of the board sent me a Google Doc that was going to be my announcement that this guy's going to become the CEO of the company. And I read the doc, and it sounded like it was written by someone trying very hard to avoid saying anything that might offend anyone. So I took over and made edits, and then someone went in and undid my edits and changed the doc again such that it would be not offensive. So I put in big bold letters on top of the doc, whoever wrote this doc doesn't work at Opendoor anymore. And I didn't realize that both the consulting firms that the company had hired to do PR for it were in the doc. What happened as a happy accident is both the consulting firms very loudly resigned the account. We would like to have nothing to do with the company, which did two good things. One, I didn't have to pay 30 days of notice. And two, I got to have one less expense on my income statement. So I got every expense the company had paid for the last 12 months. And usually for tech companies, your largest expense to an external vendor ends up being your cloud provider. But for Opendoor, number one was millions of dollars written to a very large consulting firm. This company had come in and had told Opendoor to basically offshore every job, to massively overload the company with G&A, and basically cut engineering, which is literally what you do if you have zero desire to create alpha. And that basically happened to Opendoor. And by the way, I think that actually happens to a lot of companies where the founders are no longer there. There's no large shareholder that cares a lot about the company. So over time, many of these companies essentially become hosts for professional leeches whose job it is to suck the company dry while making management look good.
So I want to go back to day one too. We started down this track of you got all the expense reports.
Yeah.
I want you to walk me through and to give me the blueprint of coming in here. And
yeah,
because you find a culture that exists without you.
Yeah.
How do you tell what to keep, what to get rid of?
So Opendoor had gone fully remote. So at 9 a.m. that Monday, I told the entire company, hey, Opendoor is going to be back in the office next Monday. If you don't plan to be in one of these offices, we appreciate your help, but you're no longer with us. Then the second thing that happened was that Opendoor had become a place where you succeeded by creating process, not outcomes. So a bunch of people chose not to be part of the company because we became so outcome-oriented, because we demanded ownership. But the third thing that was impressive is, just actually has been the best good surprise of Opendoor. I would every once in a while find someone who I thought was exceptional. And I would honestly ask them in that first couple of weeks, why are you still here? And it was a series of these people that had kept the company alive on their shoulders. And we've now rebuilt the company around these ICs.
ICs are individual
contributors, yeah, who actually do the actual work.
So it was on life support.
Yeah, honestly, Opendoor would have died had it not been for maybe a dozen people.
Well, so this is fascinating to me, right? Because if you were to read a book on how to turn around a company, or you were to go to business school and take a course on like the best turnaround, you're not doing any of that. In fact, you're doing the opposite.
There's a lot to be learned from books. But if Opendoor could have been fixed by following something that was written in a book, it would have already been fixed. Look, there's two things. One, the people you hire is the company you build. So the first week at Opendoor, I changed our career page. Our career page used to say something along the lines of, this is a happy place to work where we all care about each other. And by the way, here are all of our ERGs. Opendoor's career page now says, this will be hard. Like, our job is to attract people who want to work hard. And we don't, like, we say this is not for you. Like, my job is to try to convince you to not work at Opendoor, such that if you come, you're highly committed. So that's one thing. So the people end up being the company. The second thing ends up being that over a very long amount of time, groups of people tend to have tendencies towards niceties. So everyone ends up telling each other nice lies, a series of white lies that veer you off course. And the job of a founder type is to be, a nuclear bomb of truth over and over again. First principle truth. But what is important is to discover who you are, discover that kernel of truth, and build only on that. And then hire exceptionally good people and guide them.
Was the view from the inside, like, were all of these nice lies sort of aggregating into the company's doing okay?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people had convinced themselves that bad things were happening to Opendoor. That Opendoor was like this victim of the macroeconomic environment. The victim type mentality that people develop, right? Because you know people who blame the world for everything that goes wrong with them. Opendoor felt like that. The company was just mad at the world, mad at its partners, mad at its customers because it blamed the outside world for everything that was happening to it.
But like, how do you change that in the sense, like, you're one person, you're coming in, and you have to have this equal and opposite force, I would imagine, to counteract this and start changing the culture. And you pull the curtain and you're like, guys, we need
I mean, I think like a commitment to truth over feelings is incredibly important. I sent my team, I have a blueprint that I sent to the entire company because my job was to create strong repelling forces. I.e., I wanted everyone who didn't like how I was going to run the company to quit.
You wanted people to opt out.
Yeah, people opt out. And then that would create room for people to opt in from the outside. The most dangerous people in any company, if you grab a 2x2 chart, are competent but not mission-aligned people. So your job is to identify who they are and help them move on as fast as possible.
What makes them so dangerous, though?
Well, because competent people have a way of tilting the org in their direction, right? Everyone has had at their job someone who is very good at internal politics. And you can see that this person keeps getting promoted because your boss doesn't realize what they're doing. So my job, I thought early on, was to cause that rift to widen. We've had to basically hire an entirely new company, and that has been very painful.
So if you sat down and had to write a document on like the key principles involved in turning around a business, what would they be?
I think changing defaults is incredibly difficult. So if you're going to change a default, you have to do it violently. Let me give you an example. Opendoor was remote. Opendoor was never going to become in person if we had a 7-step plan over 8 months. I know this because Opendoor had many 7-step plans over 8 months to become in person and never worked. So like the only way to become in person for Opendoor was through significant amount of aggression. Transparently, I thought Opendoor was a place where some people were kind of mailing it in.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but some people. So I slept at the office. I thought Opendoor was a place where people were unwilling to take, risks. So we took risks public. So they want you need to figure out which defaults are killing the company and change them violently. There must not be change management because you want the change to feel jarring. Second, you must tell people what you expect of them. Most companies' mission statements end up being bland, pale imitations of statements. We're here for the good of the world. Yippee-yi-yi, who isn't? Right? But you have to say things that a reasonable person would say, I don't want any of that.
Right.
And you have to figure out what those things are because it matters. And third, if you're starting as a CEO of a new company, I strongly urge you this. Be committed to truth over feelings. Truth over feelings all the goddamn time. Because you will invariably, over time, find that you will get rounder edges if you're not careful.
Double click on the truth over feelings thing, though, because, I mean, most people think that they already do that.
I think what happens is people are truthful within the context of the situation and the people they're in the room with. The larger the room is, the less space there is for truth, right? But that is the death of companies. This is why big companies are so usually average. I mean, a pizza team is real, right? Like having small teams is real because you can be truthful in smaller rooms. You can say things you would never say in a big room. And you need to get that in a company. If you're like a new CEO of a company, you need to discover who are the speakers of truth and get them in a room alone so you can discover things. Otherwise, you will die.
So what's a meeting with Kaz like?
We try very hard not to have meetings unless they're needed because meetings are a bug in the system.
Wait, go deeper on that.
So meetings exist because people could not get the information they needed to make decisions before the meeting.
So most meetings are like context sharing, effectively.
Yeah. So typically, we only have meetings where we're broadcasting, not narrowcasting. And our meetings end up being relatively full of disagreement.
Go deeper on that.
So there's no point to have a meeting where we all agree. And we believe it is impolite